I appreciate the countdown.
Yay!
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, world. There's a song that we're singing.
What is it? It's
Come on,
episode
get
6?
This is, yeah,
Hey,
episode 6. Episode 6. So, yeah.
Is it really?
Sweet. Really?
Wow.
6 weeks
I know,
of this
right?
stuff?
How's everybody doing?
Man,
Awesome.
good.
You?
How are you, Daddy-O?
Fantastic.
How's everybody been holding out during this long, strenuous, I guess, well, what has it been? More than 6 weeks now. Anybody new and exciting since we last talked?
As always, I've been sitting here this whole time,
I know.
just waiting,
I know.
just sitting right here.
I moved
As
to
usual.
Canada.
It sounds like your travels up there. You just got
Yeah.
there, right?
Brent Fitz just went all the way to Winnipeg.
He did, yeah.
Woo! I'm quarantined
When did you
at
get
my
in?
parents' place. I rolled here yesterday. It was a 2-day drive. So,
Damn.
yeah. So I made it over. Of course, as a citizen, you can actually travel across the border. And so I'm here.
So,
But I'm here. I'm in my
serious is-
parents' house.
Yeah, yeah.
It's,
How serious? I know you were saying you're quarantined. You are straight up like 14 days. in the
that's
house.
the rule. I mean, you have to when you cross a border, that's the requirement. So,
Wow,
and it's
amazing.
fine. I'm here to like go through my parents' place. You know, we sold the house, and so I'm sitting in the basement. Check out this. Look at this psychedelic
I love it.
wallpaper.
That's
Whoa.
what made me think of the
Rad.
Partridge Family song right there. I was-
This is Austin Powers in the basement. Yeah, actually, I'll
100%.
give you a quick little tour.
Oh,
Here we go. This is the basement. I can't even imagine all the things that happen in this basement. Your parents'
Well-
weird swing parties and stuff. I can only imagine.
Whoa, pool table.
70s were a
Pool
wild
table,
time.
dudes. This is the
Everybody
best.
had a pool table.
No shoes in the back on the wall.
Here's the piano. Oh yeah, there was like racquetball things, organs,
Is there
No, it's
shag
very
rug?
musical.
You have a shag rug?
Yeah.
and what are you talking about? Of course.
Like on that rug.
Imagine if you
Look,
could
look.
just actually take a sample of what's in that.
See this
rug.
carpet? That,
Oh, that's
look,
the best.
that's the original carpet.
Oh
It's
my
brown
God.
Orange. That is shag. Is
Nice.
that awesome?
Now, were your
Amazing.
parents,
So
when did your parents get this house? How long?
1965.
Damn.
So, and they just, were like, okay, we're going to move to, apartment living, and that's cool. But so the basement, this is where all the bands used to rehearse,
Amazing.
the late 70s, early 80s. So I thought,
Wow.
that's fitting. I'll come down and quarantine in my parents' basement, and here we are. So
You
That's
need,
not-
to-
that's not-
but
you need to set up a kit like the old days.
exactly.
I'm
yeah.
working on it, yeah. But I only got a couple weeks before that. The house is not
So are you
ours
sitting
anymore.
there empty
so I
right
gotta-
now? Like there's nothing in
Wow.
there? Or are you sitting on like a box? Or you have actually? Is there still stuff there?
No, I'm
Okay.
on the couch.
It's
The
on the couch.
Chesterfield. You're on the
My
Chesterfield.
great grandparents.
The Chesterfield.
I'm on the Chesterfield.
Thank you, Darren.
It's like velour. It's classic.
Can you actually prove that you actually aren't actually living in your parents' basement? Like, and this has been you've been living in your parents' basement the whole time?
This is
Virtual
crazy, guys.
backdrop.
Like at 50 years old, I never thought I'd be saying, "Hey, I'm hanging out in my parents' basement." Anyway, here we are drinking Tim Hortons.
Do you,
Yeah.
do you have any emotions about being in that basement, possibly for the last time in these
Yeah.
next couple of weeks? That's
I've
where
had a
you
few
grew up.
cries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all are. What's cool is, because Corey, we went over to, some of your places in Moose Jaw when we were there all together. That was really cool too, to experience it with you and, talk to your parents about it. So, you know how it is. At some point, this is not going to be the normal. So I'm just kind of taking it all in.
Yeah.
So it is what it
Well,
is.
it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare for there, none of us have a house that's been around since 1965. My parents have been in about 100 houses, over the years. So it's kind of really cool that you're able to kind of maintain that kind of connection that long.
It's a Winnipeg thing.
I guess
I
so.
don't know. People here are just kind of like comfortable in the
Squatters'
neighborhood.
rights.
Yeah.
Have you had
So,
the chance to meet the
anyway,
people that bought the house?
Well, miss you guys.
No.
No, not yet. I don't know
Scare
if
the
that.
people.
Are they aware that they're going to get a Canadian drummer / bass player living in their basement?
I just like creep up and
I
they
just-
walk in first
Oh,
day. I'm
you better
still
check
down
the-
here.
You better check the fine print of that contract. There's a guy living in
The
the
Fitzy
basement.
clause.
He ain't going anywhere. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, so Corey,
Yeah.
tell me. I don't know the story on your bandana, but I'm sure
Right.
we're gonna get to it. But is that legit? Is that for real from original?
It's the real thing from it was my second concert I ever saw. It was Bryan Adams opening up for Loverboy, and I can't take the credit for this. Although I had one, this is actually my wife's.
Wow.
So
wow.
my wife and I were at the same concert, and we didn't know each other. But isn't that kind of weird to think that your
Yeah.
future wife is in the same arena as
So-
you when you're
Yeah.
13 years old?
And you weren't there, Todd? Like, where was
I
that
was
concert?
I
China?
saw that very same tour in Saskatoon at the Centennial Auditorium with Bryan
Okay.
Adams opening and Loverboy. It's the 1983 Get Lucky tour, I think.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you notice, I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually Mike Reno's signature on the side.
Do we want to get too much
Amazing.
detail? What kind of time was your wife spending with Mike Reno?
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to know.
Corey's
I'd
got
like
a
to know
whole
how that
series
happened.
of questions. He's going to tie up the whole show.
We'll have to ask him.
As a whole series. It's more of
I
an
can't wait to talk
interrogation than inter-
I can't wait to talk to Mike because the best thing is his well, we can talk about it, but he has Winnipeg connections. Everybody has a Winnipeg connection. So you know, I actually know his wife's family. They're the most talented people I've ever met. From
Well, this sounds like a great segue to an intro. So, who's got the cowbell?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it, Brent. Brent, you introduce today.
You need that donk.
No, you're better. We'll change it up. No.
He's really, in many ways, he should be prime minister, and I think if he ran, he'd win a landslide. Don't you think? We should organize.
At least a good vote for the
Go
new
prime
$5
minister.
bill.
Hey, now you're talking. Please say hello to our hero, Mike Reno. Yeah.
Hey, welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Are you squatting
Perfect, yeah.
in your parents' basement?
Hey, Corey, do any of your kids look like me? This is the question you must ask.
Oddly
Exactly.
enough,
Hey, Fitz.
the only kids I had were fur babies, and they don't quite look like you.
I couldn't believe the stories you guys were telling me. It made me want to pull my own little headband out.
There
Yeah,
you go.
baby. Put it on. Put it on.
I like it.
You know what? I thought I couldn't remember where those headbands came from because my mom has one too. She's 90, and when she comes to concerts, she puts it on and stands by the soundboard. And everybody goes, "Look at that lady! She's got the head." And it's the oldest headband out there. Is it the terry cloth one?
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it
Nice.
totally is.
Oh,
And
super-
the thing
super
is,
cheap.
I was worried about stretching it, that the elastic might kind of break, as you know, because
Right.
that's what happens with old stuff. But it's
Yeah.
totally flexible still. It's a little small, like it's obviously made for teenagers and kids' heads, but
Right.
so if
quality
I start
item.
going blue after a while, it's
Show
because of that.
the autograph. Let's see if
Quality
maybe we can
item.
authenticate it.
Quality item.
Can you see it?
That's me, all right. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
It's a legal
Let's
binding
see.
contract.
I can't believe you just told me that story. You were both at the same concert and you didn't even know each other.
Isn't
That's
that cool?
Crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
That's the first time I saw Loverboy, and it was the first time I saw Bryan Adams. Actually, he was just
That
starting
was,
out.
that was a heck of a tour, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. That was
That
at
was
the
my
Agrodome in Regina.
That was my
Wow.
first real concert, actually, to be honest. My parents took me to see Beatlemania, like the Beatle tribute thing when we were
Right.
kids. But the real first, I lived outside of Saskatoon, and me and a carload full of kids, we drove into the city, and the big city, Saskatoon, and saw Loverboy. And it was like massive deal, man. It was like, it was a full Beatlemania rock concert. I was like, whoa, man. Yeah, you guys were great, man. I
Thank you.
So, Mike,
I'm
Mike,
blushing
having
now.
heard the stories
Yeah,
from
you
all
should-
these guys, do you, does that seem like just yesterday to you? Or, given the fact that all these guys are now talking about it and growing up on it?
I was doing an interview the other day for a podcast, and I was talking to the guy. He says, "Well, how long have you been on the road?" And I stopped for a second to think it through, and I went, "Oh my God, I've been on the road for 50 years."
wow.
Now, just saying those words drives me crazy because, when you're in a rock band, you always feel like you're a teenager almost. because it's so much fun, right?
Sure, yeah.
And it's just hard to believe that I've been on the road touring for 50 years. That's why when they said, "How are you handling this quarantine type thing?" And I just said, honestly, it's kind of fun for me because I got all this stuff I've never played with, and now I get to play with it all.
That's awesome.
Great. Amazing. I was reading I just went through a quick little thing, and I read, it said something like one of the first shows Loverboy ever played was opening for Kiss, or was it the first show, or in 1979?
Well, it was the first show in the arena. We were playing around bars and stuff trying to get
I see.
members of the band. But here's the deal. On the bass guitar was Jim Clench from April Wine. He was in
wow.
town, and he was a friend. And Jim's a great bass player, great singer, actually. He sings Ooh What a Night, He's got that big rock voice. So he's rehearsing with us just for something to do. We had a rehearsal hall underneath the Clark Street Bridge. And we were playing away for a week, and then Bruce calls. It's his birthday today, by the way. Happy birthday,
I
Bruce
saw
Allen.
that.
Hey, Bruce Allen.
Bruce Allen. Wow,
Awesome.
that's amazing.
Well, Bruce calls us and said, "Get the guys together. You're playing tonight." We go, "Well, where are we playing?" He goes, "In the Coliseum." And we just kind of went crazy. We had, we didn't even have a regular. We didn't even really have a bass player. So
Wow.
we were going to play 6 songs. So we kind of taught Jim 6 songs. And it was the kind of thing where he's standing on stage and the place is packed. It's a Kiss concert. And And of course, I was waiting to get booed off because, we've heard all the rumors about all the warm-up bands getting booed off the stage because all they really want to hear is Kiss.
Sure.
And the next thing you know, they're starting to dig our song. Me like a deer in headlights. And he's going, because we had to start the next song. And then Doug starts it with the keyboards. And of course, it's Turn Me Loose, right? And he's looking at me like I don't know this fucking song. And so I walked over to him, and in his ear I went, boom down, boom down. And he goes, oh yeah. And then he walked right up front and gave it the old boom down, boom down. I mean, that's how crazy it was. And after the show, I mean, I don't really remember much of the show because first off, the nerves are going, then the adrenaline starts coming, and then Bruce is yelling at you all the way back to the dressing room because you didn't hit the tambourine enough. Shit, you can pick that goddamn thing up, play the goddamn thing. One of those kind of guys, right?
So it's safe to say you're the pioneer for beatboxing because that would have been way before its time.
Safe to say, yeah.
Bruce Allen always he would have been an amazing wrestling manager. He has that kind of personality. He should
absolutely.
He should have had a side gig with him.
Well, his people called me and asked me if I'd send him a card and a letter. He says, we can't get together this year because of what's going on with the COVID-19. It's his 75th birthday, so all his people wanted everybody he's all known over the years to send something in because he said nothing Bruce Allen likes more than a letter or a card, personal card. He just loves that stuff, especially in the time of all the apps and the texts and all that crap.
Yeah.
So I sat down and wrote a letter, and I wrote a letter about the letter consisted of a story that happened when Paul and I were first getting the band organized. And we were sitting in front of Bruce Allen's desk, and we made some plans to do some stuff. And I wasn't quite sure about the plan. I said, I don't really like this. And he goes, this is good. This is good. This is what we're going to do. And I looked at Bruce and I said, Bruce, are you with us or against us? And he cleared the table with his one hand, and on the other hand, he shot out like a jaguar, and he had his hands just about to get me around the neck, and I moved out of the way just in time, and he fell on the floor, and I went, holy shit, is this guy ever passionate, huh? Wow. I mean, all I just said is, are you with us or against us on this one, right? Boy, I never said that again.
Yeah,
so I know what you mean. I know what you mean about the wrestler manager. He could actually be a wrestler.
He's such a huge personality. It's amazing. So when you guys started the band, you already had Bruce Allen as your guy?
Well, we started the band in Calgary. Paul and I and Doug were there.
Right.
And we asked Scott if he would be interested, and he was going to university. He said, I'm not sure if I could quit university over a bass player gig in a band. Sure. So he thought it through, and we moved to Vancouver right then.
Right.
And we didn't have a drummer either. So we figured we'd get together. Bruce Allen had just decided he'd handle us, which was good because, in Canada at the time, that was the only game in town as far as we were concerned.
Right.
And we'd heard that he just finished his whole thing with BTO and he was looking for a new band.
Awesome.
So the cards were right, the stars were right, everything was just aligned perfectly. I mean, you couldn't have planned it any better. But so he decided to take us on. So I guess, we were together, and then we had to find a drummer. That's a whole other story. I had to talk Matt into coming and trying out for the band.
Whoa!
Because he just finally left Streetheart,
right? And
he was in Vancouver, but Paul said, "Oh, I can't talk to him because the way Streetheart disbanded, it was kind of rough."
Right. Yeah.
And Paul was kind of treated poorly. Well, treated very poorly. Oh, he says to say hi, by the way.
Yeah.
Love Paul.
Okay.
So Paul says, Reno, you got to ask Maddie because I can't talk to Maddie right now. And Maddie said, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to sit back for a while. And I said, okay, Matt, why don't you just come on down and, dink around on the drums for a while. You don't have to stay long. Stay as long as you want. He ended up staying 3 hours the first night.
Wow.
And then he says he took off and he was like, I don't know if I'll come back. Playing that routine. So I called him in a few days. I said, do you want to come back down and jam? Turned out he came back down and jam. And him and Paul were actually so good together that there was no denying that he was the guy for the band. But it was just a bit of a, and apparently I was the guy. I was the Harry Kissinger, the guy who had to talk him into it. As we're still we're just a tight bunch of guys. We've been together 42 years.
No,
that's that is amazing.
For all intents and purposes, that's the same four guys, and Spider being, you've known Spider for 1,000 years as well. I know.
And Paul played with Spider too, sure.
Yeah,
and he's the top guy in the country for sure.
He is. Spider's probably one of the top guys in rock and roll, as far as I'm concerned.
But you're right there. You're right there. Absolutely. Just great guy to be in a band with. I'll tell you that. He's one of us for sure.
He's a really great kisser. I mean, yeah. I mean, I heard that. I read it online somewhere. Right now,
we've boiled Spider a few times on a couple gigs. He's actually come and sat in and played with us, and of course, which is quite the honor.
It's kind of like Groundhog Day. Do you notice that every day you get up and you do the same thing? You go downstairs, the coffee's kind of going, and then you get your computers out or whatever. You look at stuff, you read the paper, and then by the end of coffee, you're going, "What do you think we're having for dinner tonight, hon?" You know, it's just like those are the things you do all day, because you got to plan for dinner. Because if you don't have any, you actually have to go out.
I know.
And nobody really wants to go out unless they absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day. Great movie.
I know. How long in advance were your gigs already booked? Like, as things have been postponing, have you had like pretty much the whole year kind of planned already, or?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We had 85, 90 shows on the books. We did, I'm going to say 18 shows. The last show was Vegas.
Right.
And then we all went home, and then we've been home ever since. It's crazy. My wife Kathy St. Germain looked at me the other day and said, "You know, honey, we've been together for 68 days. And I said, "Well, you've been in the garage locked in for 10 days. So I'm just
So, Mike, I'm looking on the Loverboy website, and it's still showing that you've got dates starting all June, going all summer. Is that just being optimistic, or are those just have yet to be postponed or canceled?
Every day I get up and I open the phone and I look at my thing, and there's 6 postponements, and they're postponing till the next year. So it's not even like we'll see you in a few months. It's we'll see you next year. And hey, listen, I'm ready. I got bags packed under the stairs. They talk to me when I go to the bathroom. They go, "When are we going, Chief?" And I go, "Well, I'll let you know."
When I drive down the 101 freeway here in LA, there's still a sign that Loverboy's coming in May at the Canyon Club.
Really?
So I was going to be there. I was going to see you guys, but unfortunately not this year.
Yeah, I know. It's been crazy. Like, we're really missing that aspect of it. I mean, it's kind of like I've never done this to say, well, it's just a bit of a break. But for me, I had a break this long. So, you know, I'm kind of getting into it, you know, washing my own cars and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's a fascinating thing, because like, even recently, I've been talking to guys who are like in their 40s and who are kind of like almost like they don't want to tour anymore. It's exhausting. And then I talk to you and I go, I think I want to be like you. I want to just keep going, you know. And then when they finally like tell me it's time to quit, I'll be like, "Nah, I'm just gonna keep going," you know. And I
nobody's chomping at the bit more than Sammy Hagar. If you ever watch some Sammy Hagar stuff, he'd come to your house right now and do a live concert.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? He just loves it. And you know what? I'm the same way. I just love playing concerts. You know, I don't even imagine. I can't even imagine. People say, "You ever going to retire?" And I went, haven't even thought about it. Yeah. You know, Paul's older than me, and he still loves doing it. He's like the ever ready bunny. I mean, he's just jumping around like a teenager, you know. But anyways, I just love the energy from a live audience. It's just well, it's so good. The crowd loves it. We love it. It's just a big love.
So speaking of playing, somebody online's actually making a comment, and I'll leave it to you guys to authenticate this. But somebody's asking Corey if you recognize that yellow Les Paul in the background at Mike's place there.
Oh, good question.
If I recognize his yellow Les Paul.
Well, apparently, and maybe you can confirm this, Mike, that it says that it was previously owned by one of Corey's former bandmates, Mike Norman.
Oh,
wow.
How did you know that?
Well,
how do people know that?
Is that true?
Jay Bwettner.
Absolutely.
Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that last name right.
Oh my gosh. Jay Bittner. Hi, Jay. He's amazing. Great guitar player. Wow. Yeah, I totally remember that guitar. It looks a lot more yellow though now. It's probably almost white when I knew it.
I think it was always a tad yellow.
Yeah?
It's kind of a yellow finish. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice playing guitar. There was a sad thing that happened to his family is they lost Mike Norman to cancer.
Yeah.
It's Kathy and my wife was very close with Mike. I used Mike as a musical director for a bunch of shows I do when I travel without Loverboy.
Sure.
I use him as a MD, musical director, because he knows every song and he knows how to get the band going, and he's really very good. He's like the Paul Schaefer of. Well, I miss him really dearly. But anyways, we went over to his wife's house and she had all this stuff sitting around, and she said, "Man, I don't know what to do with all this stuff." And I just said, "Well, I'll buy a bunch of this stuff because I'd love to have a piece of Mike Norman in my life, forever." Mm-hmm. And so a nice guitar acoustic downstairs I play all the time, a Larrivee.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Those are beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, for people that don't know, Mike Norman was we had a band together back in the 80s called the Explorers.
That's right.
And a country band called the Underground Outlaws. We actually had 2 albums out at the same time. One was country and one was like prog rock.
Cool.
So, yeah, and he's exactly like you said, Mike. He was a walking jukebox. He just knew every song, every lyric.
He could play sax too, right?
And he played sax.
I could play everything. He was one of those guys, right?
Yeah, I remember
guitar.
that. It was nuts. Yeah, super talented guy.
Amazing.
We miss him dearly. He was a great guy.
Absolutely.
Totally.
So, did you actually grow up in Calgary, Mike? I've always tried to figure out where you actually. It just seems like you appear when they start talking about you, it's Calgary, and I go, I don't think Mike grew up in Calgary though.
Well, here's the deal. I know I sound like that guy who's running for president in the States.
Prime Minister, Daddy.
So here's the deal. I was when I bought my first set of drums, it was for money. I had a morning paper route in Victoria.
Oh.
I delivered 67 papers in the morning, the columnist, before school. Then after school, my brother would get me to come down and stand in front of Eaton's and sell papers just like with the hat on, kind of crooked. Times paper. So I sold the Times after school. I made some money, bought a set of drums. I ordered them from England, and they came, and it was like a big deal for me. My brother played guitar. So I was in grade 5 when we moved. We moved to Penticton, where I still call home now, because Penticton's a great town to come from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's in the Okanagan Valley for all those people listening from around the world.
Yeah.
Beautiful wine country.
Mm-hmm.
And right after school, a lot of my friends were going to university. I decided to move to Calgary and start a band.
Right.
And so that was 17 years old. So Calgary for 6-7 years. The name of my band, we should maybe ask people if they know this, because it's kind of an interesting name. Should I say it out loud or wait for people to call in?
No, go for it.
The lines are ringing.
So the band's name was Spunk. The lines are ringing.
What was it called?
The band's name was Spunk. Can you imagine?
Oh my God!
Well, at the time we were
pretty
pretty spunky. Let me put it that way.
Right, spunky. Yeah. You got spunky.
We moved around a lot.
Yeah.
And then I left for a few years and went to Toronto, which was a big deal for me.
Oh wow!
3 years in Toronto with another band called Moxie.
Yes,
and they wanted me to come in town and write a whole new album and do the whole 9 yards. It was like crazy time for me. So I really learned to write songs with that band. That's kind of where I was kind of pressured to write songs.
Nice. Amazing.
And then after I left, I wasn't happy with the work ethic of the band, and I didn't like the management. And the record company was actually a company that made vinyl products, accessory for automobiles. It wasn't really a record company at all. You ever heard of A-Head?
I remember that name. Yeah.
Used to make baseball caps and visors for your car and all kinds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anyways, they sponsored some bands. And so to me, it wasn't a real record contract. It was just more like a sponsorship. So I was dying to do something different. That's when I went back to Calgary and met Paul Dean. So that's why people know. And Loverboy was really started in Calgary.
So
I ended up...
Back in those days, were you able to work like 6 nights a week? I'm trying, because we came up in a different time, and I'm not quite sure, because I know everyone we talked to in the prairies especially, you could work like 6 nights a week in different clubs and stay in the same club for 6 days and then move to, Stettler, Alberta and play 6 days there, or Brooks,
we did
Alberta.
That, but not with Loverboy, though. When I first moved there from Penticton, that was the same scene. You could play you'd play a bar, and the bar was like great, always packed. And then in the weekend, you went to the Cabaret, which is another place like downstairs or over there. And so we did that forever in my first band with Spunk. But when Loverboy came, I actually was so broke, I got a job working on a construction site just so I could have some money to work with Paul, because Paul was his wife was kind of supporting him back then, and I was kind of batching it. So I said, I better go and move some sand in that complex over there, move it from one floor to the other, and lumber from one floor to the other, just throwing it up, moving it. And then they say, move that to the third floor. I'd throw all the lumber up to the next floor. That was a day's work. But I used to make some pretty good money. So after that, I could take a month off and just write songs again with Paul. And that's kind of how it was with us. You had to work just to have some money. I always like to have a bit of money in my pocket. That's the way I am. So I'll go to work if I have to. I'll even go to work tomorrow if I have to, you know.
There you go. There you go. And so, we might all go into construction tomorrow.
A question just came in, and of course, you were talking about ordering drums, and I just have to kind of segue into that too. I remember we always like to talk about ordering stuff from, you know, consumers distributing, and as a kid, you're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. And this stuff was coming from only one province over. What was the wait time on drums coming from England?
Well, it was a long time ago. There were a set of drums called John Gray sponsored them, and they were called Capri. Okay. They were red sparkle, and they had actual hide on them.
Oh, wow.
There were no plastic.
So Sharon online has been asking, of course, I mean, most people probably tuning in, most people would recognize you as a singer. Were you a drummer to start, or how did that turn into wanting drums to all of a sudden becoming frontman singer?
Absolutely. I remember buying my third set of drums. I had a set of Stewards, which is good because we have a Steward on today. Yeah. Blue Sparkle Stewards. And then I moved to Ludwig, and I bought a double set of white maple Ludwig from Drum Village on Broadway in Vancouver. Wow. And they were $1,040. I remember I had to bring 1,040, and they were set up at the front in Drum Village, and I drove down from Penticton in my van. And I got there at like 3 a.m, and I was looking through they weren't open till like 9 the next morning. So I just sat there and looked at them all night, and that came, the whole set came like that, but it didn't have cymbals. So I had to figure out how to get some cymbals. But this was a big deal for me. Double set of white maple Ludwigs. Are you kidding? Wow. This was huge. And I played in a band for years, and I played and sang all the songs, just kind of like
playing drums and singing.
Absolutely, just like Phil
Gilmore
Collins.
Or something. Oh, Phil Collins,
just like Gilmore. Well, a little different than Gilmore. Hey, Gil.
Drummers were inspiring you, like initially. Who was it that were inspiring you to play drums? Was it?
Well, I don't know. It's just my brother played guitar, so I played drums, and he taught me how to sing background vocals. So I was kind of the guy who did. Na 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 na, and he was the lead singer. He'd do the Monday, you know. And this is kind of what it got me. And then I just kept going from there and learning more songs. Oh, amazing stories. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know. I remember I was just the guy who could sing. I remember playing all the Led Zeppelin stuff, like off the first 2 albums. It's like Lion, cheating, hurting, that's all I want to do. Playing it, and you know, and that was the big deal. And then it came to a point where some of the guys in the band went, "Hey, Mike, we'd like you to stand up and sing because, you know, Deep Purple have a singer, Led Zeppelin have a singer, everybody's running around and entertaining the crowd." I said, "I'm not doing that. There's absolutely no way I'm going out front." Because, you know, if you're a drummer, you got the drums there, and it's kind of like a nice little shield.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've been hiding behind them my whole life.
It's funny you guys brought up Gilmore, because I was always looking for a way to introduce this. Did any of you guys own this by chance?
Focus.
Hold it back,
Darren.
Go back.
It's titled "How to Survive as a Rock and Roll Musician in the '80s," a book by Gilmore. Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
Wow. I mean, maybe you guys should have read this. Yeah.
I guess.
It's like an instruction book.
I have a whole
actually pretty good
for Triumph. Actually, they make pretty good records. Triumph. Yeah.
You know, Mike, it's funny because a friend of mine down here in America, you know, Mike Klink, the producer who makes the records.
Yeah.
Like did Triumph records and Guns N' Roses records. He's been putting together slowly putting together a Triumph tribute record. I believe it's overseen by Triumph. I'm probably not even supposed to be talking about this, but what the hell? And they're like, we're we're gonna record some songs. So I said, well, I'm gonna talk to Mike Reno. I'll see if he wants to come sing. You know, I'm trying to think of what's Lay It on the Line or something.
And so yeah, it's pretty high, but I could imagine I could just squeeze it and get it out. Hey, I was just noticing. Are you in a guitar shop, or is this just what you have? What is that?
Everybody says.
Dude,
I've been squatting in a guitar center, and don't tell anybody. Yeah, this is just my
It looks
house.
like a guitar set. Oh, this is your place?
Every
You got a lot of
Tuesday,
guitars.
Todd just
My
goes down and breaks
father-
into the local guitar shop.
I've been living here. I've been hiding in for the entire COVID-19. There's just security kind of comes around. They leave me alone. No,
You're down at you get down at Guitar Center, right?
Yeah.
You've been down there for 14 days
exactly. No one's here. No one's
at
here.
a time.
It's fine. Yeah, exactly.
It's a good
It's fine.
part-time job, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So when that means you've got Brent Fitz, who's a drummer, also playing bass. You got Shane Gallus, who's a drummer. We got Pat Stewart coming on, who's a drummer. And I didn't even know that Mike Reno was a drummer. That's amazing. We should put together some kind of side band and just have like a whole
Some
big
kind of blue
drummer
man group
kind
or
of
something.
thing go on.
I'll give you an example of the kind of drumming that I do, though. You know, like a guy like Charlie Watts, who just lays the groove down. He very rarely hits a tom-tom kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I remember we were working on a song, and it happened to be over at Matt's place in Surrey at the time. This is years ago, before we put a record out, I think. And we were working on a song called Take Me to the Top, which has kind of got that, you know, it's got that dinosaur type groove. And he just got up and just went, I'm not getting this one. And he just goes upstairs for like an hour. And everybody's looking around going, what's going on? So I could feel it immediately. I don't know why. I just had a feeling for it. So I just kind of went, just laid it down easy. And then everybody got a chance to play their parts, right? Because we're writing the song and the guy leaves. So and it wasn't anything bad or anything. It just, he wasn't getting it. Finally, after about an hour and a half, it started sounding pretty damn good, right? Because everybody's finding their parts and getting into it. And next thing you know, Matt comes downstairs. He goes, whoa, that sounds awesome. And he jumps on the drums. Of course, much better drummer, but he just was looking for a feel. He was kind of trying to find a feel.
Sure.
And I guess I maybe just gave him a little, I was just trying to keep time so everybody could keep practicing, you know.
Whatever happened to that song?
That's
on
big.
the
It
first
went on the
record.
record. Take Me to the Top.
Right. Take Me to the
First
Top.
That's a big one. That was a
Right,
big song, actually. We never released it as a single, but people sure love it when we play it live.
That first
Yeah,
album.
you guys still do it in the set, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I think song 5.
Yeah.
Song 5, if I remember correctly.
We've done several in our set, but I think Corey and I are always holding out for, we love When It's Over.
Oh yeah,
That's such a great song.
love
That's
that
my
song.
favorite song to sing, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so-
Just 'cause-
Shine on that.
Who were the girls that were singing on that, or girl? Oh, that's
That
stuff.
would have been, what's her name? Nancy Nash.
Oh yeah.
And I think she just did all the parts.
Okay,
She was the go-to girl.
I see.
Did you guys know that Bruce Fairbairn, who produced our records, and did you know that he was the producer of Prism?
Yes.
of course.
And he also played like trumpet and trombone and all
Yeah.
those parts.
Wasn't Jim
you know?
Valance in that
And
band?
Jim Valance was going by the name Rodney Higgs.
Right.
you know that?
Right.
Yes. Yes.
And because I don't know why he didn't want his name on it, but he was also in the band. It was actually their band, and they just found a bunch of guys to play some of the songs. And I bet a lot of the drums were played by Jim Valance. Did you know that Jim Valance does a lot of drumming? Started out with drumming on all of the Bryan Adams stuff at the very beginning.
Is that
Oh,
right?
I did know that.
Valance
Yeah.
is a great drummer.
Oh, wow.
Did you know, or I just recently watched the Tears Are Not Enough documentary.
Right.
Is that Jim playing drums on that? Because I was trying to do the math on that. That might be a trivia question. Might be too deep a trivia question. I might have to.
I think it might be him playing because, you know, there was like 45 people involved, right? So
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think it was David Foster was there. I remember him asking me to hang around a little bit in case we need to, you know, fix anything up, and I just kind of ghosted for whoever was not quite making it there. You know what the funniest part about that was? Neil Young singing, and Neil Young sings his part, and Foster goes, "That's great, Neil. Could you give it one more time?" And he goes, "No, that's the way it's going to be, man."
One take.
My style.
Yeah, he says, "That's my style, right?" And I thought that was kind of funny because everybody broke into a laugh, right? It was just because it was a pretty communal kind of day, right? You do this all in like one day. It's
Really?
amazing.
One day.
What studio was that?
You know what? Let me think for a sec.
Vancouver.
I think it was Toronto.
Was it in Toronto?
Mm.
Okay, wow.
And I don't know the names of the studios in Toronto.
No,
it
I
was
don't
one
know
of the
either.
studios there.
Yeah. Amazing.
You know what's cool is Bob Rock has been doing some podcasts lately, and he's been, actually talking about how important the first thing he produced with Fairburn at Little Mountain, I think, was probably the first Loverboy record. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And it's still being referenced to this day. Always going back to that first record for its sonic. Like it's just stood the test of time. But I was just, like yesterday or 2 days ago, listening to a podcast. It was so cool to hear Bob talk about it. And I learned that Bob was from Winnipeg and had some Winnipeg roots. But that whole Little Mountain, there was something special there, right? In the late 70s, like with Bruce and Bob and you guys. And it sort of set a lot of, very important things musically.
Absolutely. What's kind of funny is the guy who was working as a second engineer, and he used to kind of clean up and get coffee and do all kinds of stuff, and he was called the second engineer. He was always the first guy at the studio, and his name is Mike Fraser.
Oh yeah, Mike.
Mike Fraser's now producing AC/DC album. He's mixing. He's one of the best mixers out there. Like he's a mixing guy.
And he used to make coffee for Mike Reno. Keep that.
Well, what the deal was? I said, "How do you get here so early?" He looks around. He goes, "Don't tell anybody, but I sleep under the console." And he's got a sleeping bag, and he rolls it up and he puts it in the other room. Nobody even knows. I don't even think he had an apartment back then. I mean, that's how you start, right? And nowadays he's hanging out with guys like AC/DC, doing records at Warehouse in Vancouver. I mean, this is crazy stuff. And we all started at the same time, And Bob was just coming back. He did a record with his band, the Payolas.
That's right.
Yeah. So he was known as a guitar player, and I didn't really even know him as an engineer, but until he started making these great sounds. And I know what you mean about this test of time, because yesterday I got in my car to go somewhere, and I turned the radio on, and The Kid Is Hot Tonight was on. Wow. And I cranked it up, and it sounded fabulous. And I was just quite surprised how good it sounded.
Song 1, album 1, like that. Just I mean, when people say Led Zeppelin, they say Good Times, Bad Times, first track, and look at Loverboy, same thing. It's really cool.
Absolutely, it is cool. It's a cool thing. We've got a lot of cool. I see Bob once in a while. I see his son too. I remember I'm recording, working for The Weeknd, and I'm singing away, and all of a sudden I look up and his seat is twirling like a cartoon type. It's just turning in circles where he used to. And I go, "Where's everybody?" And they go, "Bob's son is going to be born in 10 minutes. He just went over to the hospital, right? This is his first son."
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I see him once in a while because he lives right out by me in White Rock. So it's kind of cool.
So, Mike, it wouldn't be Toque Talk without asking you. And, of course, just talking about working for The Weeknd, obviously you've heard the version these guys did. And you have anything to offer up on that? Or
better than my version, for crying out loud.
No,
I'm not kidding. You guys got it down. All those bands that you're doing, they must be freaking, because Have you done anything by Harlequin yet?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Two.
Aren't they a great band? How about Honeymoon Suite? They're Honeymoon Suite. They're another great band. Yeah. I can't believe those bands never made it in the States or anywhere. They could have been a worldwide success. Maybe they just didn't have the right management or something.
And that's why we decided to bring this, in the age of the internet, out to the rest of the world.
100%.
Some great stuff out there.
Yeah, totally.
My wife Kathy St. Germain was telling me a story the other day. We were talking about Harlequin and how great they sounded, and she goes, "They used to play at my high school dance, and I had a crush on George." Yeah, that was so cool, right?
That's cool.
Hey, I want to ask a couple of questions. First of all, I know you guys wrote a song with Mutt Lange, "Loving Every Minute of It." And did he actually produce that? Like, I know I asked Paul this question. He said he never actually met Mutt. I think they just talked on the phone together or something. Can you speak about that?
Well, I tell people stories sometimes and they can't really believe what I'm saying, but this was before you could email songs anywhere. And people go, what do you mean before you could email songs? It's like crazy. It was before cell phones as well. Yeah. And people go, what do you mean before cell phones? There's nothing before cell phones. I remember the first cell phone looked like I was carrying around a car battery with me. Used to bugger my shoulder up because I carried the cell around. The only other guy in town with another one was Scotty, my bass player. And we used to go, how you doing? He goes, I'm in the same room. It's like, anyways, so that whole song was recorded. We were actually working with the producer who was producing records for Judas Priest. Tom Allen was his name.
Right. Yeah.
And we were in the studio. One of Tom Allen's sentences that I'll love and remember forever was, we'd do a take, and he'd come on the intercom talking to us, and we'd look at him like, "How's that?" And he goes, "Change nothing immediately, boys." Change nothing. Just one of those guys. It was a great guy to work with. So we got to a certain point in the recording of that album that we wanted to. We kind of said we kind of need another song, something to kind of pull it all together. One more song.
Sure. Yeah.
And so Bruce Allen had known Mutt somehow, and he called Mutt and said, "You got a song for these guys?" And he sent us a song pretty much all done. All we did is basically throw a little Loverboy-itis at it. We Loverboyized it. But we listened to this song and recorded it on a small handheld cassette recorder. He played it over the phone, and we held the cassette up to the phone and recorded it. And then we sat around and tried to pick the pieces together, and then we went out and played it. Wow. And then we got everybody in the whole studio area to come down and do the whoa, whoa, whoa. You do that with 10 guys, and you do that 10 times.
Yeah.
Right? Sounds like 100 guys. Yeah, and we used to do that for Bon Jovi and Aerosmith. Yeah. And I remember doing it for Thunderstruck. We all went in there, thunder, whoa, 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 thunder. We all did it. We did like 10 times.
Amazing.
Then we did it 10 more times, and so that was the kind of what you were talking about. Little Mountain Studio having a certain amount of charm and magic. Mm-hmm. Well, there was a melting pot. There was like people were walking around having coffee. You could go watch the different studios. There was studios in the back where you could edit stuff and check out different arrangements. There was a studio that would be Aerosmith over there and Bon Jovi be over here, and I'd drop by to pick a mix up from Bruce. And I'd be talking to all the guys in all these bands, and it's just crazy. It was just like, it was the ultimate best, actually. It was the best thing I've ever experienced, and I could hardly believe I was experiencing it. You know what I mean? These guys are huge. I remember Aerosmith. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Is that why Bruce didn't do that record? Was he doing like something like Bon Jovi at the same time when you were working with Tom Allen?
I think he was busy, so we decided we had to get somebody else. We brought Tom Allen in.
I see.
And he was a good English bloke. We had a lot of fun with him. Yeah. He always had a nice tumbler of scotch. Change nothing immediately, boys.
And my last question is, when we were doing this new Toque album, it was our second album, obviously. So we wanted to an idea for the cover of it was to recreate the Get Lucky record cover where the fingers are crossed behind the butt, right?
I'll go get my leather pants for you. I'll just go get the leather pants.
Well, okay, so
they're still here somewhere. They're the same size. You're like
so
32, 36, but now it's 36, 32. No, I shrunk and got wider. Go ahead.
When we were looking for red pants and stuff on the internet, I discovered a story, and I don't know if it's bullshit or not, but it said that record cover everybody thinks is you with your hands behind your back, but it's actually
It was Fitz.
I knew it.
But they hired the photographer hired this model, and he came in and he had his daughter. He had his daughter with him, and his daughter was like a 13 or 14-year-old girl. It was actually her butt with the hands of the model. Is that true?
It's her butt with the hands of the photographer.
Oh, the photographer's hands.
It's the dude's hands, yeah.
His father's hands, because what they did is they said we got to get an album cover for these guys, a record, out of New York, Columbia, and they said the boys are still cutting the record, but can you send them some of the stuff? So we sent them a few of the songs, and they heard the phrase "Get Lucky" in one of the songs, which was from Only the Lucky Ones. Yeah, I just yelled that out of. Anyway, so the guy says, well, we should do something with that. He says, what do the guys do? Like, what are they wearing? You got any pictures of these guys? So he must have got some pictures of us, and we were wearing, I was either me or Paul or somebody was wearing red leather pants. So they made a big deal out of the red leather pants. And I thought it was quite a good concept. And I just went, that's fabulous. And there was no way that we could go to New York because we were still cutting the record.
Sure, yeah.
So it just kind of happened kind of naturally. So everybody for years just figured it was one of the guys in the band. They probably thought it was me. I mean, I still get people ask me yesterday, said, you still wearing those red leather pants? And I'm going, I'm not fucking wearing the red leather pants. Are you crazy?
Well, they were a lot easier to come by back then, because I tell you, when we were looking actually to do this album cover, we were trying to find something that would fit Todd. I mean, we had to go high and low, but to no avail.
Exactly. 36-inch length and a 32 waist. I don't know.
I got one of those in the closet. It's just a memory closet. I remember that size.
That's hilarious.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
such an iconic image, though, isn't it?
Totally.
You know what it is? That's actually a pretty good story, because a lot of people, they just refuse to believe it, because really when they say, well, I love that butt, well, it was a chick's butt. I mean, they hate to tell everybody that, because
right.
people had it on their walls.
And she was 13.
So interesting.
A lot of girls just went, oh, that girls love that butt. I got to get my hands on that butt. And it's a 14-year-old girl. I mean, I never wanted to tell anybody that. I think we were sworn to secrecy for the first 85 years of our career.
Right. That's amazing. And we were gonna uncross the fingers and do a peace sign, which would signify the second album, like two.
Nice. That's a great idea, because you guys do peace quite often, I noticed. I love your stuff, by the way. You guys are spot on, man. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I love all the stuff you guys do with all your bands. I mean, you guys are you're in a million bands. You guys are great. Great art entertainers. You're doing it. You're living the life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's the plan. I want to be like you. I just want to keep doing this until I'm dead, basically.
Keep that suitcase by the door, all packed and ready to go. That's my only hint.
I love that. That's actually true. Yeah. Have a spare toothbrush that's packed in there, ready to go. Here we go.
All ready to go.
That's fantastic. Well, Mike, we want to thank you for coming on and talking to these guys today, and it's always a pleasure. On a parting note, if we were to suggest a song out of your catalog that these guys should take on as their next challenge, what do you see?
I would love to know that.
Let me think for a second.
It's a lot of songs.
There are a lot of songs.
Hot Girls in Love.
That's kind of fun, isn't it?
It is a fun one.
I like DOA. DOA.
Oh, I love DOA. DOA had a cool sound to it. It's like, we were influenced a lot by the Cars. Just came out. The Cars came out, and I bought the Cars records, and I just went, oh my God! The use of like chug guitar and then synthesizer, back and forth. So it'd be jug, banana, and that's kind of what I got. That's very cool. They influenced a lot, actually, the Cars.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That would be a cool song to cover.
It would be.
That's a good
actually.
See,
I think we should probably.
What I do love is a lot of those songs had the great, obviously based on a guitar part and riff, but the keyboards are very important with a great melody. And what we love in Toque is doing a lot of the songs that have keyboards as well and complementive melody lines. So that's what the Cars definitely had too, right?
Yeah.
And the Cars had Mutt Lange producing. Oh my God! Remember the sounds? Those sounds were so cool. We actually used one of his engineers, Mike Shipley, for one of our records. And
I worked with him for 2 years as his Pro Tools guy.
Oh, cool, man. I heard he passed away. That's kind of a drag, huh?
He did, unfortunately, a few years ago.
Awfully young, huh?
Yeah, he was such a nice guy.
Yeah.
That's so bad. But, interesting stuff. I heard also I was talking the other day about recording in Le Studio in Quebec.
Right.
And I heard some interesting stories about Rush. Could you imagine being out there for those Rush sessions in the studio?
Oh, right.
They're so good, that band, man. They were just so good.
Synchronicity was recorded out there too. The Police album was
Are
recorded.
you kidding me? I
it
didn't
was
know that.
recorded in the studio. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, crazy,
awesome.
right? Yeah.
We couldn't live out there. They asked us to live in the house, so I couldn't do it. I said I can't be here with you guys every day. So we ended up going back to Little Mountain.
I don't blame you.
Go back to where you're familiar.
Guys, thanks for having me on the show, man. It was really fun talking to you guys. And nice to see the other guys. I see them down below. Hello, everyone.
Quite
Pat,
an honor.
everybody.
Yeah, Pat will be on next.
Yeah, stay tuned. So again, we want to thank Mike for hanging out with us for a little bit, and we were talking a little bit about headbands. So we're going to send you out I don't know if you got one of these, but we're going to give you one of the official Toque headbands. So this will be coming your way.
Nice.
There you
Got mine on my wrist right
and you
now.
can rock this. And you can rock this live when everything gets back to normal and everybody gets back out on the road and doing what you love doing. So we again want to thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
You know what?
Thanks.
You know what?
We love you.
One second. I think we need to end this segment with the "Turn Me Loose" scream from everybody simultaneously.
Oh, we ready?
I've had all I can take. I can't take it no more. I'm gonna pack my bags and
I better get my headband back on for that one.
That's where your superpowers come
that is
from.
yeah, exactly. That's
the secret powers of the headband.
That's right.
So everybody watching, hang tight. We've got our second guest. We've got Pat Steward coming up in the next half. We're going to just do something different this week. We've decided we're going to start getting to know the guys in Toque a little bit better and what they're doing in their off time. And this week we're going to feature Corey's little segue. So enjoy this while we transition to our next guest. So hang tight and we'll be right back. In the meantime, if you're interested in hearing Toque's version of Working for the Weekend, go check it out. It's on the First CD Giver, which is available on all your famous streaming platforms and on toquerocks.ca. Thanks again, Mike, for being with us, and take care.
Thank
and
you,
we
Mike.
look forward to talking to you again.
Brother.
Thanks,
Two.
bye. Love you, buddy.
yeah, Toque 2.
Hey,
everybody. Just wanted to show you my playground when I'm not on stage. Today, I'm hopefully going to be So apparently there's no trail, and I downloaded a track of how to get up there, and it looks like this is the start of it. I'm glad my wife's not here. I don't think she'd approve. But somehow we got to go up that to start with. Oh Lord.
all right, piece of cake.
So we're exactly 60 seconds into the hike, and we've already turned around. It's a bit scary. I was afraid of falling on Derek. We're going to try a different way. Okay, we're trying a new way. We're following a little river up, and I came across this nice waterfall. So this looks like a lot more doable. I think this is the wash we're supposed to follow all the way up. That was close. Oh my God. Okay, we made it to the top. Oh wait, no, we're not at the top. We're still not going up because we decided to go down. It was a bit too much for us, and we're gonna go to some easy hike right now and see some rocks and water. Best thing about hiking is always know your limits. Better to be safe than sorry, and we had an excellent time just scrambling up what we did. That's the main thing.
Drum talk. It's gonna be drum talk, baby.
Hey.
Okay, so we're back live.
I'm gonna save it. Are we live?
And
All right,
again, we
we're
wanna
back.
thank Mike for hanging out with us for the first bit of the show, and of course,
Yes, thank you, Mike.
It's awesome.
Mike.
Yes. That was
Amazing
legendary.
story.
yeah,
We'll miss
of course. Who
Oh.
wants to do the honors
That's a legend
and
there.
talk a little bit about who we got coming up next?
Shane, a fellow drummer.
Yeah, I think a drummer should.
Bye, Mike.
Todd's always the best.
Pat's
Mike.
Pat is a legend. I've been lucky enough to be on stage with Pat many times. He's first of all, odds. Whenever I list my top favorite Canadian bands, we always get into these conversations of classics. Rush, Guess Who, and my short list is odds is always top five for sure. Always top five. Some of the best songs, some of the most amazing dudes, and most amazing players on the planet. And Pat, of course, has a huge history playing with Bryan Adams, played with Matt Good, played with a bunch of different people. He's an amazing talent, an amazing human, an amazing ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
Hey, Pat. Hey, Pat.
How's it going? How's it
Good.
going?
How are you?
Good.
How are you?
Good, eh? Good,
Good,
eh?
good, eh?
Good, somebody said
Good, eh? Good, eh?
Yeah, good day. Welcome to Toque Talk.
So you're in Vancouver as well, right?
I am in Vancouver, yeah. East Van, in my neighborhood.
East Van Halen, baby. We were talking about that earlier.
That's right.
I used to live on Renfrew and Hastings, right in that area. Is that close? To where you are?
Really close, yeah.
That is close, yeah.
And then I lived on Boundary in Hastings, right above Beano's, and we had a terrible cockroach problem there because of that restaurant below us.
Oh, wow.
Beano's, they're the Canadian piece of history and some rock and roll history, I'm sure.
Totally.
100%.
Yeah, I'm sure Harlequin or Brent Fitz spent some days in. Beano's were good because they had a muffin that was about the size of your head, and it was about $1.50. And when you were broke, you'd eat one in Victoria, and then you get to the gig in up Vancouver Island, a 3-hour drive later, and then set up the band. And then it was dinner time, and they would comp your dinner. So you spent $1.50 on food that day.
Wow. You could do an entire show on how musicians have managed to save, like a slice of pizza was $1, dude, and you could, that was dinner right there. You could probably write a whole thing about how you could survive the cheapest as musicians. We'll work on that.
Right. Yeah.
So how has your COVID-19 experience been? A lot of locking yourself in playing drums all day, or mostly just chilling? What are you doing?
Not enough. Too much chilling, and not enough drums. And then in recent weeks, a friend of mine has a little place, and as things that I think I've all learned more about the COVID and spatial distancing, and this thing is well, I'm going to come down here in the morning because he's not coming down till late afternoon, and so that's starting to work out. And the place my wife and I share a pretty small place, so even this volume right now that's more than most people in a small space need. So I'll come down here and do the interview with you. That way I can just freak out and be loud or whatever I have to do, So, but anyway, somebody earlier said Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what I said the first couple of weeks.
100%.
People thought I was seeing the movie.
Same thing over and
over.
Yeah.
You know what I didn't know, Pat? did you actually like live in the States in California for like part of your childhood or something like that? I thought I read that somewhere.
I did, yeah.
So, but you're born in Canada though, right? You're Canadian. You're Canadian.
Right. Really close to where I'm at now. I was born in Vancouver, and
so how long were you in California then?
We lived in 4 years.
Oh, really? So would you ever have any consideration? Did you ever think about like, I'm just going to stay and be in Hollywood and be a rock star or anything like that? Or were you too young and you just came back, or how'd that work?
I wish. Yeah. No, I was in we lived in Seattle for a year, but we moved to Southern Cal because my mom remarried, so we left Vancouver, and my stepdad's American. So we lived in a place that's pretty popular now. It's called Thousand Oaks. And in those days, like everywhere, these were like separate communities. Now it's all just one town from San Diego to Santa Barbara or even north. So, so I was in elementary school and then started middle school. And then my dad was living in Canada, in Vancouver Island. So then I moved after 5 years. I came back up here.
That's amazing. So what is the story of you? How old, you were very young when you started playing with Bryan? Am I right? Bryan,
you're pretty right. Yeah. I was trying to make it seem like I was really young, and I go, 21. That's not young enough. But considering what went down at 21 is, I think that's how that was. 82. I guess I was 22. Wow. And the crazy thing about that time was I was with I had a band that I started with a guy, Doug Elliott, who is a bass player in the Oz, founding member along with Stephen Drake. He and I had this band. We were going to college, and then I started this band, and then I brought him in, and I was obsessed with it. Of course, it was early 80s, so Stewart Copeland had just like obsessed my mind for about 4 years from the drop of that first album. And so between them and a band called XTC, mostly like both for drum beats, Terry Chambers, that's a whole topic. And the songwriting of those guys was like, it was like Lennon McCartney, a little more 3D afterwards or something. So and then we discovered a band called the English Beat. So we're doing our own music. We're doing our own songs inspired by all those songs and those kind of group. I would go, I'm doing, and it was kind of a Copeland thing. It was that type of group, but I kind of make my own thing with it. And I had 2 octobans and a splash.
Stewart Copeland standard issue. Yep.
Yeah. But I was going to say, so we were doing that. We moved to the city from the island. We'd sort of done, we filled our pants with what we could do over there, I guess. I was here for maybe 6 months, and then by fluke, Keith Scott and Bryan and another buddy of theirs came to a club we were playing on a rainy Tuesday night, and it was literally the classic. There were 2 guys in the front, drunk, passed out on the chairs, and then some guys in the back who you couldn't see clapping after all the songs. I was like, I wonder what's going on there. And I was like grumpy. I was just like, sucks, man. Tuesday night, the club owner, the guy loved it. He's like, hey, play every Monday to Wednesday for the whole month. Come into the day and, write your songs or rehearse. And remember those boards that every club had a cassette deck out front. We go, we got our cassette deck wired into the board. So you guys could write your song, make recordings, take them home, and figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was actually a great situation, but, it's that classic thing. You never know who's in the room. So you got to have your game on. Your attitude might have been a little off track, but and I went, well, I'm gonna go talk to these guys that seem to like the music. They were like clapping after solos. I'm like, all right, the jazz kid.
It just turned out to be Bryan Adams and Keith Scott. That's who we were actually chilling.
Yeah, I was sitting there looking at these guys, and I just didn't have a clue, and I wasn't really that wasn't my thing. Although, I go into the music stores and I see. What was it? Music Express, right? Great Canadian mag that's kind of gone now. And that month there was a big feature I don't know if you guys remember it. I mean, you saw Loverboy in '83, so you probably saw these types of things. It was that magazine had a picture, bunch of different photos of Bryan, and then a big quote from Bruce Allen. Happy birthday, Bruce Allen.
Yes.
Saying, it was something like Adam. The quote was, "Adams is my retirement," or something like this. I just remember that. So I'm sitting in the dark in this club, and I'm talking to these guys, and I go, "Oh, you guys play music?" And they go, "Oh yeah, and I go, you got a band?" And Keith goes, "Yeah, well, I guess it's his band." I go, "Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we do that here. We trade it. Last week it was his band. This week it's my band." The jackass stuff you do to survive the insanity of what you're going through, right? Because you're living on $1.50 a day. And,
so Pat, this is mostly. Sorry, I was just gonna say, talking on that, just because this is we like to think of this as a Canadian-based show, and of course, everybody in Canada knows. I'm sure you're asked this question a million times, so it's 1,000,001 from us. What is it like to be part of, I guess, arguably one of the biggest rock records or records at all to ever come out of Canada, and including playing on one of the biggest singles, you'd think, Summer of '69? Can you tell us a little, I mean, does that something that obviously, stays with you to this day? Is that, I mean, obviously a peak in your career. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like, being part of that?
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm always proud of it, and it's an amazing record. And if I hear any of those songs on the radio, whether it's a Mickey Curry track or my own, or I got in the car, it was on the way here, and it was like at the bridge of Summer '69. I went, "There's a sign or something."
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
because that record sounds good on the radio. I don't think it's ego going. I listen. I go, interesting. Like this song, "When I Love Affair." It's all what I know about AC/DC now. I didn't then, but it's an AC/DC inspired thing. That rhythm guitar, that drum track. I just was like, "Oh, that's what you do? Okay, I'll do this," or "Do this," he said, or however it went. So, but I'm proud of it. It's in recent, probably last 10 and 15 years, where sort of more people or younger people come up and just sort of comment on it and go, "Oh." After a bunch of that, you kind of go, "Oh, okay, that mattered." He was in grade school and he started playing drums that day or something,
Sure.
So
yeah.
I mean, it's so organic when you hear that. Sorry to cut you off, but when you hear that stuff now, it's just like organic drums. You hear the snare. It's not all, not all this stuff on it and processed.
And yeah.
It just sounds refreshing and real. And I'm sure you cut a lot of it live together in the room, right? Or at least you and the bass player?
Yeah, it was like after Mike, Reno, and those guys left the week before doing what you guys were just talking about, we went in. But yeah, that was the thing at Little Mountain, and I could be wrong. Mike Fraser or Bob Rock could lay it out exactly. And but to me, Bob Clearmountain started doing a thing in New York with those guys with sounds and channeling this sound and a love of that Mickey Curry and him loved the John Bonham thing, and let's aim that sound into that hallway down there. We'll put some mics at the bottom of the stairs.
Oh,
that's organic. Yeah. And they had a version of that at the Warehouse in Vancouver, and so I mean, in those days, for sure, I listened to it. I go, wow, interesting. I didn't realize how much chorus is actually on the guitar of "Run to You" or something.
Oh yeah,
and the AMF thing and the harmonize, the Eventide thing. Those are like the 2 or 3 kind of main '80s things, I think. Yeah. But I always have thought that those records that Bob and Bryan and Jim that they made, or I listen to records from that period. I go, I don't know, they're kind of the best sounding records. I was just saying to a guy yesterday, I think, especially, and it really happened with it. Well, it happened with the second album, "You Want It, You Got It," but "Cuts Like a Knife" is still kind of a favorite record. And I think they took, if you listen to other songs of that time, they took this thing and they just toughened it up. They just, tightened things up a bit. I mean, he's that drummer, and nobody did that. He was the number one in the world for, people have their time. And I mean, he's a friend and one of the great drummers, Mickey. But the stuff that they did together, they just like I said, they just tightened up with what was already good. People were making great records in Canada, and but I think these were kind of some of the best, at least for a couple of years there, you know.
Well, and it shows up too because stuff like Summer '69 is it's almost a cliche to talk about how when I talked about you today, I go, you know that song Summer '69, you probably heard it already 3 times today. That's Pat Stewart playing that because it's one of those songs that's just sort of omnipresently always playing. You get in the car or you go into a coffee shop. It's just everywhere. So every time I'll be in like, you know, Bangkok, Thailand, and I'll go, hey, it's Pat Stewart. Listen, you know, it's like, but it's, you know,
we didn't. So we could have done Summer of '69 for Toque, right? But we actually, even though we play it live, we do it live. But we kind of were like, well, that's the go-to because you know,
it's arguably one of the most popular Canadian songs. I mean, and I'm saying like universally, like you could play it in Spain or Japan, and everybody knows that song. It's just one of those things that's, you know, it's just there's something really, and it has that element like what we would refer to as Americana, although it's Canadiana. The fact that it's, you know, it's just guitar. It's a guitar rock song. It's not heavy metal or AC/DC, but it's essentially like somewhere around the, you know, in the area of Tom Petty or, you know, those kind of like, it's a guitar rock song, pop oriented kind of song. And I mean, Bryan and Jim have obviously they've done pretty well at coming up with that kind of stuff for a few
I don't
years.
think you could attend a wedding, a function or anything, or in Manitoba, as we like to call socials, without hearing that song. I mean, it's just one of those, it's up there with the Sweet Child of Mines and all of the other, you know, songs that will forever be known as, you know, bigger than the band, essentially.
It's sort of like the calling card. We have to talk about Live Aid, though. I'm always fascinated
I want to
talk about Live Aid because once in a while a clip will go on and I'll just go, it'll show all the bands and it'll be like Bryan standing there and I go, there's Pat, like right behind Bryan. That's Pat. Was it just like bizarre to you? Like, did you fly in? And were you staying at the hotel where everybody? This is in Philadelphia, right? You guys did the Philadelphia show.
Yeah.
1985.
Yeah, we were in Philadelphia.
And you're what? 24 at the time.
That was 85. So we just like I was thinking about that today, maybe because of this interview, because I think it's June 13th or something. So the 35th anniversary will be coming up. How does that work? Like I was 23. You know, like I just turned. It's crazy.
Wow.
So we were out touring, and then it was just like we didn't really know.
Right.
We had no idea. It was just like, oh, here's your tour itinerary. Here's all the dates, and here's what's happening. Here's staying. Now we didn't have a cell phone. I have this image of, well, maybe we flew. I think we flew in from wherever we were the night before, and. We're in a van. I keep picturing being on a bus, but it was a van. And then our tour manager goes, "Oh, there's a phone booth. Pull over." And our pal Graham, he goes over, and this was the sweet thing, was because we're going in, and the promoter or whoever he had to deal with at the event, they go, "Yeah, so let's see, what would be the Regina or I don't know, somewhere equivalent." But you know, you're at the Salisbury House, or you're in the whatchamacallit, like 45 minutes out of town. Sorry, we didn't have any rooms, enough, everything in town sold out. I'm sure you can understand. And, you know, really all we would have done, we wouldn't even we had a room, but we would have gone in for maybe, you know, that thing where you check into, you go, "Oh my God, this room's amazing. I'll be sleeping 4 hours and leaving." And you're like, "Oh, I wish my wife was here." Or something. But we pull it. So anyway, tour manager gets out, gets a payphone, and he goes, I gotta check on some things. Now we had a deal with the Four Seasons. Wherever there was a Four Seasons, that's where we stayed, which was nice. And so, you know, Canada, U.S. and everything. We'd already played Philly, I think, 1 or 2 times that year. And he phones the concierge at the Philly just in case, because the Salisbury House, 45 minutes out of town, does not sound like a good idea. And Mr. Lycan, we've been wondering when you're going to call. I've got your regular itinerary ready, 8 rooms and this and blah, 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 blah. And we're like, yeah, man. Because they said, yeah, sorry, guys, we got no rooms. So we go in and we check in, and my room I just recall it's a nice hotel room. I seem to recall there was a library in my room.
Wow.
There's a library. There's like all these books.
How long are you staying?
Okay, boom, gone. It's like a morning.
I said, how long are you
What's
staying?
that? Not enough. So then we go down. How does that work? Oh, that's the night before, yeah. So then we get the room, and so it is where everyone's staying because we decide, hey, hey, we're gonna go to the lobby and go try see if we can get into it, get something to eat. Yeah, okay. So we go in and we're sitting there and they go, oh look, there's Carlos Alomar and Eric Clapton hanging out, and there was there's everybody's hanging out in this area. I can't really. Those are the only names that really come to mind that I recall, And then I guess I went back to my library and had a proper sleep. Then we go to the show, and it was all pretty quick. And again, we still had no idea. I had no idea what we were up for. I don't know what those guys knew.
How many songs did you do on that thing?
I think it's like 6.
Oh, it's
because there's that DVD, but I feel like it's not all on there. Like and the crazy thing is, I think we opened with Kids Wanna Rock.
Okay.
Which is vicious. And when you're 23 and excited, you come out, and I'm sure either of you guys have done that. Oops, I came out a little hard. And all this stuff right in here, and this stuff sure. Because because you're too excited, and you thought, oh yeah, we're good to go, let's go here. But it's like, wow, this is kind of exciting. And when you're outside, and in those days you just had wedges, so you don't hear the sound coming back. So my body's reaction to that situation was always, you should probably just hit things a bit harder. You'll probably hear it. Everything as hard as I can, and the snare head wasn't stretched out properly. Todd, you might have heard about my snare technique that Ryan Dahl saw and freaked out. Like, what are you doing to that poor drum? But there was a thing I learned in those days about you got to really stand. It just hadn't been done, and it might not even have been. Might have been an ambassador, and it should have been an emperor. But we were like halfway into that song, and the head was convex or concave.
No.
I'm like, and it feels like horrid. It's just like it'd be like if something broke on the guitar, somehow you're playing it, but it's just flat. You're like, oh, you did the next broken. You're gonna pull that back till the end of this song. Anyway. I'm kind of freaking out now, and it's 1,000,000 degrees and humid. I don't really ever wear. I probably had Mike Reno official sweatbands, but I had them on. It's just coming down the arms, and I'm like, man, this is what is happening here? And so then I'm looking at him. I'm looking at the set list. I'm like, this song's gonna end. Wait, no, I got to do this drum solo thing at the end of it. Yeah, and then. I don't know when we would have changed, because if we went into Cuts Like a Knife right away, we would have gone right into it.
Yeah.
So somewhere, or else I'm looking at going, I'm going to have to play this until we come to the breakdown in Cuts Like a Knife after the solo, and it's boom, 4 on the floor and hat. And then, of course, yell, get fuck it! In there. And I'm like, okay, now I can kind of breathe. And then you're sitting there going, I'm going to come in, and I sure hope this thing's where it needs to be, Of course, he's overcompensated, and it now sounds like it's tuned for Stewart Copeland instead of that mid place that I would, Anyway, that was the most madness of Live Aid, and
God, it's horrible.
A cool thing about it was because we played Tears Are Not Enough, and we've been rehearsing that at our sound checks, and but it's a Foster tune, so you can't have only one keyboard. No, another guy. So and Adams is tight with Paul Schaefer in that because he's done the show and going to, or I don't know how it happened because ever since then he's done the show a lot. So Paul Schaefer is what joins us. So I'm over at the side of the stage. There's Paul in his crazy Paul Schaefer clothes and rocking out with us, and then Bryan says, just stay up, And I always recall, so maybe it Cuts Like a Knife was later because I know that he loves that song, and I always remember looking over and we're playing it, and he's just rocking out, having a gas, right?
That's amazing. From Thunder Bay.
From Thunder Bay.
Really?
There's actually a street named after him there, believe it or not.
That's right.
Wow.
Darren is from Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
You know Paul Schaefer, Darren?
I don't know him personally, but I do know that his parents lived one floor above my grandparents for the remaining of their senior years. Yes, so.
Oh wow! There you go.
Never actually met him though.
1 degree of separation. Yeah.
So Pat, was that your first stadium gig, or had you guys played some stadiums up until then?
Oh, no, we've been doing stadiums. Yeah. You know what? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just because that first one in a stadium, it's like it's tough to do that gig.
The first stadium I played was again the funniness of how it goes in rock and roll. You know, we recorded the record in June, and then November, and the office calls on like a Monday or a Tuesday, and they go, "Oh, hey Pat, you got your passport's all up to date and everything, right?" You get these questions sometimes. Sometimes it's not,
Yeah.
I mean, it was, but sometimes you think like, "Oh, you're good. You're in the union, right?" At that time when we did that record, I like, the what? No, I don't know. I live on $1.50 a day. I'm like, oh my God, hang on, I'll call you back. And then they gotta file it. Because they don't file it through the union anymore, when they should, because there's benefits for all of us. But anyway, so she says, yeah, okay, good. Yeah, you got your set. Yeah, because you guys are going to go over to, you're flying on Thursday morning to Germany. I'm like, okay. And I can't even remember where we're at. I'm living in my old band. I've quit my old band, but I'm still living in the house with Doug Elliott and then the guitar player and someone else. And there's, the tension of that whole topic has passed, and between me and the leader of the band, he and his wife have moved out of the house, and I've taken over their room from living in a corner of the basement with a working couch and some plywood for a wall. So I now got a proper room, and I've quit the band, so I don't know how that happened. But anyway, so we go over and we do this festival in Germany called Rockpalast, and it's a big, it's kind of a, yeah. Have you guys done it?
No, I've never heard of it. Yeah.
There's always like live footage of it on YouTube and all. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think there's starting to be some clips. I've looked for our thing there, and Bryan played there in '83 because they were trying to break the act over there. So this was important in November of '84 to go there and break it. For the following, a few months later, we were back over there for a couple months. So that was the first, what do you call it? Coliseum. It's one of those a velodrome where it's got the bike track on the inside, but it still holds, upwards like 20,000 people. Now it's a festival type thing, so there's two stages, and it's like this band plays, and then that band plays, and then it was us. I remember there was us, Spandau Ballet, Patty Smythe had her big hit. And on drums was the great Tommy Price, I knew all about him because he was Billy Idol's guy.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. And he was
eventually Joan Jett.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in Joan Jett. Tommy's in Joan Jett now. He's been with Joan Jett for 100 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you done shows with him?
Yeah, we have done something with John, some festivals or something. Yeah.
He's a great, 80s rock will teach you a lot. I had to learn a set to play with Mike a few years ago and his girlfriend. And I sat down and I'm just like, I wanted to post or whatever, but that if you got to go learn a bunch of 80s stuff and a bunch of Matt Purness stuff, there's only one way to do it, and it's going to get you solid. So if you want, you got some 15, 20-year-old guy that wants to get better, it's like, go learn a bunch of 80s stuff, know, and some Bryan Adams,
Totally.
But anyway, and
on the floor.
You too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Matt's thing, man. He's so vicious.
Yeah.
Very
trained.
I remember the first time I really did a professional recording was with Paul Dean, and I joined his band. I moved from Edmonton, moved to Vancouver. It's a long story, but the short of it is, I was in Paul's place recording for the first time, and I was in there and I ran through I think one of his tracks, that he. And I didn't know, but Matt had already recorded it. And so I went in, I thought I was all badass, and I'm going to kill this track and all this stuff. And I went in there, I did all this jive stuff and fills, and I finished the take, and I'm like, that was fucking badass. And I was
nailed
like,
it.
too, And I see Paul through the glass, and he's kind of like got this perplexed look on his face, like, you know, and I'm just like looking around, and there's that awkward silence, you know, after a take where nobody's responding. It's just cricket there, and you hear the fucking AC come on. Anyway, and he's like, Shane, why don't you come on in here for a second? I'm like, okay. So I walk into the control room, and there's Paul at the, you know, he's got his SSL, and he goes, sit down a minute. You know, I'm not really feeling it, Shane. And I was just like, what do you mean? Everybody up until this point told me that I was fucking great, you know, playing in other bands.
Thanks,
playing all
Mom.
this ACD. And you just saw me the night playing live or last.
Thanks, Mom.
And you thought I was great. You saw me live. Well, guess what? He goes, yeah, you know, it's just the feel's not quite there. Listen to the way Matt played this song. He proceeds to play Matt's track, you know, because he had it lined up with my track. He plays
basically like, here's John Holmes. Here's John Holmes's penis. Look at this penis.
Oh man.
And it's all like, just fat, get back.
So what was
exactly that?
What was Matt doing so differently exactly? Just
You know,
just
it was
Matt.
back. It was the snare was laid back, and everything was smashing, and all the fills were nice and in the pocket. Mine were all rushing, and my pocket was all ahead. And I get to the fill section, it was rushing even more. And then he played mine. I was just like, oh, I see. All this stuff they're talking about pocket. I thought it was like this pocket. I know what a pocket is. You know, it's this, right? But I didn't get it. You know,
it's so interesting to hear you guys talk like as drummers, because it's one of those things that you know, as you know, the guitar player singer guys, we're all kind of like, why does it feel like when we play this song with that guy, it feels better than when we play with that guy? And it's hard for us to put it into words sometimes. But you're right, that feeling of some guys just play slightly ahead and some guys play slightly behind. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the guy who's behind, because it always feels like, well, he's nice and behind like Bonham. And I play with a lot of guys where it's behind and it feels kind of like you're kind of missing some of that kind of energy sometimes that comes from that skippy up to upbeat kind of guy.
This particular track, it needed a nice fat back thing. And Paul plays, you know, he likes to play really behind the beat. Anyway, it was like one of the best days of my life, but for sure one of the worst days of my life too. I was like humbled beyond anything I've ever, but it was probably, you know, the best education that I ever had was that day.
Yeah.
But at the time it was brutal, man.
Real deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but it was a great.
Hey, Pat. Pat, did you play on Remember?
No. See, you guys had the Jim Balance talk there.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably Jim Balance.
I was in high school when that happened. The first album is all Jim Balance. So if you want to really hear, like, that track is Jim, and that whole very first record, just called Bryan Adams. That's him and Jim, and I think Jeff Baxter and some. I think they did some in L.A. Some of the tracking in L.A. at A&M or something.
Keith Scott has been on that record.
Keith Scott's not on that record?
Keith Scott wasn't even in the picture yet.
He was probably still looking for a last name. Just kidding.
Yeah, don't trust the guy with two first names, man.
Yeah, you never trust the guy with two first names.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
It sounds like they clipped the last name and they're like in a witness protection program or something. I don't know. Some sketchy.
So Pat, of course, everybody knows, you know, and it's fun talking about the Bryan Adams years. I mean, some people watching may not know some of the other projects you're currently involved in. Canadian band The Odds. What's happening there? Are you guys doing anything?
Yeah.
Anything happening over the last little while? Anything coming up?
I got a question about Pat. What about the Vancouver Canucks connection and the band?
Okay. It's well, let's see. Okay. What should I answer? Or I'll answer that first because I'm all about chronological. But before I played in the band, Paul Brennan was the drummer and went on and did played with Big Sugar, did a couple of big things with them, Digging a Hole and some of that. And Paul, one of the most recognizable Canadian drummers, I think, ever or in a hell of a long time. Like, if you hear a track, you know it's him.
Absolutely.
Or you might have thought it was Manu Katché or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, in the early days of the odds was they decided, they were the first house band at the club called the Roxy.
That's right.
Dawn Patrol, right?
Yeah, the Dawn Patrol, and it was their way to go. Look at all of us are doing, like, Doug played in 9 bands, and this guy was a freelancer doing this, and everyone did different things. They went, we can all not do that. We can have a house gig, and we're playing together, and in the day go write and rehearse and use the cassette deck at the board. Same thing. Yeah. And so they were the house band there, starting in, like, sort of late '87. And then I guess was it 90? What was that? 92. There was a run that the Canucks had back in the Pavel Bure and all those days. That lineup, and Kirk McLean, Trevor Linden. Yeah. Anyway, those guys, when they were home and they'd have a great game, they were the guys that started the whole let's go to the Roxy and party. And they come down there, and the Dawn Patrol were playing. So they eventually, Craig especially is a big hockey nut. So he would, they all became pals, and then they go. We had an office downstairs, under the the dance floor and all that, down in the catacombs. If you ever been down there, Corey?
Oh yeah.
And so we had an office where the band could be there in the day also, and we started some of the first recordings, demos and stuff the guys ever did were down in that room, and so there's legendary stories of having the Canucks boys down there and lots of pints and getting guitars signed and all that. So it started then in about 92, 91. Oh, and the other thing is that the odds, the first tour, the first album merch was this one photo where basically the guys were all naked, but the shadowing was in such a way that the naughty bits were in the dark. And Kirk McLean had that shirt, and he wore it under his uniform for every single playoff game. So that's like this legendary, amazing.
Wow.
He still got it. And he lets us sniff it once in a while, and it's a doozy. Anyway, that's the Canucks connection. It goes back to that. And then, nowadays, since the 2011 playoffs, we do a lot of stuff with the Canucks Alumni Association and this and that. So prior to 2011, about 2009, a friend of ours is named Dave Levinson, and he works in management at Feldman. But for 10 or more years, he was the DJ guy, playing all the music, did the samples of David Lee Roth and stuff that you hear at the games. And he is a funny guy, and he would always pick the right song, for a hockey play channeled to emotion, channeled to a guy going, oh, new girl now, that'll be perfect, right? Whatever it is, because they scored, and everyone knows that guy just got married to Gwen Stefani or whatever it might be, right? And everyone in the room knows. So to play that song, it's pretty amazing. His talent, his gift for that. So anyway, he actually called one day and had an idea, and I had there wasn't Zoom, but it was a phone call with him and a bunch of these people from the media organization. Would I come in and play? And I said, I'd love to. My brain, I was like, shit, I'll wear a kilt and do a marching drum or something. I don't know, whatever you want. Corey, you were down there, or you had just kind of wrapped up in those days, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I did the exact same gig right before you as a fiddler for the Canucks.
No way.
We were actually, when the Grizzlies were playing, our front band, Sharkskin, we were there on the same night with you a couple of times. I don't know why we didn't have you come and do some Booker T and MGs with fiddle. That would have been good.
Totally.
But and that's another sidebar. That was the late 90s, right?
Yeah.
But
sure.
So anyway, so the affiliation with the Canucks goes pretty deep, and so I started in 2009. I think we were blasted one round against Chicago, and then the Canucks were out. The next year, 2010, I did a bunch during the year, which was cool, where I'd set up with kick, snare, and hats and play along the track, and then they would fade the track out, and then it would be just me. And, I think one of the first things I did there was, once again, came out of the gate too hard I'm thinking, oh yeah, wife, I'll just do that. I'll play along, and then they'll fade the music out, and then I'm gonna give her. Well, 1 minute is actually really long. When in 15 seconds you're going, shit, I've gone too hard again. My hands are just like stiffening up, and I'm like, oh my god. And there's people like right there. It's awesome, but you gotta somehow win and not let anyone know that. Don't show those cards, that's for sure. So and then they decided, they said, hey, if we go to the playoffs this year, 2011, what do you think about this? We'll bring the guys in. I'm like, hey, that'd be cool. So then we wrote the script. We just developed it there. And the cool thing about it is the technology of wireless, like a wireless mic, where you got one on the kick and snare. You got one that's a DI on these little tiny Vox amps, and the same for the bass. And so like I'd be at 160 on this level. The two guitars would be up. The Craig and Murray would be up there on the 300 level. And Lucky Doug, every night they just were like, Doug, you just stand behind the goalie. So he's standing behind Luongo every night, watching all this amazing hockey. Once in a while I'd be like, okay, after this hit, I'm going to run down there, and I'd catch like 5 minutes of play, and stand behind and see how tall those LA Kings actually are. But
yeah,
so that's that.
So what year did you start playing with the odds then?
That was in 94.
So that's a long time now. Yeah, that's.
Yeah. I was actually coming back from I did a road trip with Doug and the Slugs from Campbell River on the west coast all the way to St. John, Newfoundland. And like I was out there for like 10 weeks or something, and I'm coming back across the prairies and going, okay, I got to get something new going. And there was a couple of things floating around out there. My friend David Gogo had a thing going on, and he was just starting to take off, and I was going to maybe go back, and I'd done some playing with him already, and I got home, and I was at my dad's house, and he's British, so he's got this sort of accent, and I was visiting for a couple of days after I got home from the tour, and he goes, oh, your friend Elliot's called. He wants you to, I don't know, give him a call, something about the studio or something. And I'm like, oh, okay. I give him a call, and he goes, hey, what are you doing Monday? I go, I don't know, I'll probably come back. I'm just over on the island. He goes, yeah, well, why don't you come back earlier and then just got every drum you own and come down to Mushroom, because Paul left the band. And that was the call. I'm like, what are you kidding? I've been waiting, when they first started the band, I'd just come out of touring with Bryan and some other acts that Bruce Allen was managing, Jimmy Barnes, this guy from Australia, and I was like, I want to be a touring guy and get a paycheck, like do that, as opposed to stop everything and start a band and maybe work at a coffee shop or something like that. I couldn't get my head into that at all, And then about 6 months later, they did their first gig at not the Rail Club, the other one did. Anyway, down in Gastown, a little club, and the Savoy.
Town Pump.
And they played like around the corner, just upstairs. It was called the Savoy. The Savoy and the Railway were the same owners. And I watched them play, like they hit the first chord. They sang the first verse, and I go, oh, I remember we were working on this jam or whatever. And I just, like, it was an amazing night, but I left there, like, depressed. Because I'm like, I had totally made the wrong choice. I'm going, that's what I want to do. And they were doing, it was like, imagine 1988, 89 or whatever, Crowded House.
Yeah. But
when all around it was Poison and all the glam rock and Bon Jovi and all that rock, right?
Yeah.
But Crowded House was this other thing. And I was like, no, I want to be doing that.
Yeah.
So I had to wait, And anyway, so then, 94, and they were in the middle of making the Good Weird Feeling record. And they tracked Paul. They tracked a bunch of stuff with Paul. And I came back. And then, again, the same thing that Shane said. Like, sometimes you go into a situation that they've tracked it with one or three other people. And then the writer goes, that you're the singer, Todd. It's like, you go, this one feels the best.
Right.
So it's not who. It's a matter, this one feels the best, in that case. Yeah. There's some tracks that they did with Paul, and it's like, I never had I always never felt like, oh, you should let me have a chance at that or something. I was just like, we're doing these songs, and then I'm easy going, I guess. I was like, yep. And we redid a couple that they had done with Paul, but the ones that Paul plays on that album they're incredible tracks, man. Radios of Heaven.
Yeah. My favorite things back in the day, because the Age of Electric, we played 1 million shows with the Odds over the years, it seems like. And you'd be playing your show, and you're trying to be all cool and like, hey, ladies, what's going on? And then you'd look over to the side, and it would be Doug Elliott and Pat Stewart with their pants down, but there's stuff like tucked between their legs, just standing there. And you'd be like, so rattled. What are the words to this song? I just completely lose your place. Just madness.
And at the same time, though, you're doing that, and you're having some fun and messing with your friends who are opening up, but also going, you got your pants down, and you're going, man, that guy's a good drummer. So something weird about that guy's a great guitar player. You got your pants down. I don't know.
The good old days.
Dude, I love I was watching the video Eat My Brain earlier.
Oh, that's the best.
That's ruling. What is that?
Isn't the whatchamacallit, is it the Pursuit of Happiness in that video?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of guys in that. Yeah.
Pursuit of Happiness and Junk House.
Junk House. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Tom Wilson.
Yeah, Tom Wilson. They're all in that.
I barely knew those dudes, and we were staying in Toronto. We'd have to be in Hamilton at 7 or 7:30 or something in the morning, and it's just, oh my God. And these guys show up. Hey man, how you guys doing? And he was like, he looked like Rob Zombie, man. And when they're chasing us in the van, and they had these pro drivers, the guys that just do stunt work in movies. And the guy he put on a wig. It was actually a dreadlock wig, and it was all wrong. And but in the video, it looked like Tom Wilson's driving the truck, right? And they're chasing us. And at one point, like, we're thinking, oh, well, this is gonna be cool because we jog every day, man. We're in shape. No, you're sprinting. So day one, you're sprinting all over the place.
Oh,
and
no.
At one point, that guy is so good of a driver. I can still remember the bumper of that white Chevy truck touched my calf.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, holy fuck! And I'm like, and your hamstrings are tight and sore because you've been sprinting all day, not jogging because you're in shape. And you're booting it. And I look over my shoulder. I go, man, if somebody who looked like that was chasing you, yeah, that would be it. It'd be over, man.
What time of year was that, too?
Tom Wilson.
What time of year was that? Like, was that in the winter, or like, was it cold?
It was cold, but it was, I think it was like around April. It was like March or April.
Amazing. Hey, have you been, I've been meaning to mention this, but I saw some stuff because Craig's been doing the Trans-Canada Highwaymen, and he says that you showed him how to play the drums, because I know that they do this thing where Craig plays drums sometimes. Chris plays drums most of the time. It's this side project. You guys will be interested in this, certainly. And then it's Chris Murphy from Sloan, Stephen Page from Bare Naked Ladies, and Mo Bird from The Pursuit of Happiness. And they call themselves the Trans-Canada Highwaymen, which is, of course, a play on the Highwaymen, which was Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson, Johnny Cash, and Willie Nelson. So it's absolutely hysterical to me. And I'm like, and then I heard that you, Pat Stewart, were showing Craig. I don't know, is Craig a drummer at all, or I mean, how does that work?
Well, I'm going to say that I think he told me something about being aware of drums when he was 13 or something. But I'm going to say he's a drummer now. He's a good drummer. He's been doing. We got these. You check out his Instagram posts, because he's done a couple of things where, and his son is a wizard. Film guy. He does movies and rock videos, country videos, and so you go check out the stuff on Craig or Odd's Instagram, and there's a couple in there where he's playing everything, and he'll send me a text and go, God, I'm working on this song, and it's like by a seminal punk band, the Pointed Stick, who were the East Band punk scene of the late '70s, and then so that's why I listen to the track, and I go, man, just do this, just play that beat. Don't worry about it. Just do like the Ramones or whatever. Just play that beat. So I did. There was one a couple summers ago. I was in Mexico, and he was. We figured out a way. I was like, I can't really sit here and like FaceTime with you and coach you or whatever. But he goes, okay, I'll film me doing it, and then I'll send it to you. And you tell me, because he's trying to learn how to play. What's that song? I don't know the title. It's a Sloan song, but it's bow 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 bow, right? And then it's got this. It's a really great. It's like it's Matt Burnett and Keith Moon combined.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's actually
like if you know those songs. Andrew Scott, another amazing drummer, and he's got this total. It's a Keith Moon thing. You always gotta have some Keith Moon in your pocket, I think. Yeah. And so I was trying to get him to. He's going, yeah, I can't do that, Phil. I'm just gonna go 3 and 4 and boom, and then go back to the chorus. I go, look it. Everybody watching you knows that, Phil. They're expecting that, Phil. The guys in the band are going to be knowing it. You got to learn that, Phil. So I forgot what it was. But I sort of broke it down for him, and I may even have written it down. I mean, he can read because he grew up. His mom was a symphony-level violin player, so he played violin, and so he grew up with that. He can read. I know that if I write something out with 8 notes and stuff, I go, this is what's going on, and I go, look at that, and I'll sound it out to you. And then he thought about it and worked on it. He goes, yeah, I see what you mean. You're right. Everybody's going to be waiting for that fill. You can't just go 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's doing a good job. I think he's getting good. Getting better
you're kind of like you're kind of like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of that situation.
I don't know. Sure. I try to help. I like to help, if I can.
Of course, yeah. So what you probably are in the same boat as everybody else. You have no idea what's coming up, what's going on. I'm sure you guys had a bunch of work lined up, and it's all kind of sideways because of this COVID situation. Yeah. So
and let's just say right now, let's give it up to our awesome federal government that for all of us, they've taken it's such a huge undertaking. What's going on, But I had to crunch a number. Oh, there was a provincial thing that went on for BC, and I had to really crunch numbers for the tax year that I haven't even prepared or filed for yet. They're like, we're going to need your 2019 tax info. And I'm like, oh. And then I went through here and I went, oh, yeah, cancel. Based on last year, it would have been this, and, blah, blah, blah. And, so tons of stuff. Everybody's, it's the same. We're all having that same conversation and living Groundhog Day. And, I said last week, I don't think I've had the same consistency of a morning, like Mike said earlier.
Yeah.
You get up and make the coffee, not since I was in high school or something. You're home.
Yeah, exactly. It's very strange for musicians who constantly play and play together to suddenly be like, okay, well, we've been doing a lot of stuff like in Skype form, just kind of trying to get ideas together and whatnot, but it's never the same as being in the same room. It's an organic experience to be playing together. It's just very unusual. I'm really desperate for this to be over. I think we all are.
So that we can, I think it's, although you guys are internationally based, well, you two fellas, Corey and Todd, are, it's a potential for you guys. Oh, no, and you're down in LA, aren't you, Shane?
Yeah.
So you three guys get together. But
Fitz is normally but Fitz is just, as you can see, he's visiting his parents in the 1970s by that background. But
right. I love that background. Awesome. I missed that whole story. Something about a house or something. So, are you at your parents, Brent?
Yeah, I am in my parents' the home I grew up in the basement, quarantining by myself. How do you like that?
Have you got some kind of art stars or whatever you were playing back in those days still there with that original 70s or 80s Tama art?
So, I love it. I had swing stars because I couldn't afford the good Imperial stars.
Cool.
Yeah. Everybody had Tamas.
Yeah, Tama was because of Stewart Copeland, right?
Yeah.
And Neil Peart as well. But I had swing stars in the basement, like right here where I'm sitting back in the day. So how ironic.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Super cool.
Here's wishing everything gets back to normal, right? So, We are coming to an end here on our Tuesday Toque Talk, and we want to thank Pat for hanging with us. And here's to everything getting back to normal. And feel free to hang out. We're going to just chat with the guys for a few more seconds, wrap things up. Everybody, join us again next Tuesday. We will be confirming guests in the upcoming days, and we'll be sure to announce that as soon as we get up.
Here's the most professional question I could ask. Do we know who our guests are next week? Are we keeping it secret? I think we do.
That was my polite way of saying we don't know, and we're going to figure it out.
You know what? Darren Steen's our guest next week.
Exactly.
Just 2 hours with Darren Steen. Hey, Pat, make sure you say hi to Doug. Make sure you say hi to Craig. Say hi to Murray. Love those guys.
Guys.
Oh, my God.
There you go. Dream day.
We were supposed to
I was gonna throw that up
today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Throw that up.
We didn't. Maybe next week or something.
You guys hang out. We're gonna take a few more questions. Pat, feel free to hang out with us on Skype here for a minute. I'm just going to cue to this next little segment. We're exiting from here. So again, thanks for hanging out, and everybody go check out Pat's stuff online and look for him when everything gets back to normal.
Yes.
Thank you guys for having me.
It was so fun.
Love you, buddy.
Make sure you say hi to Doug and Craig and all those guys.
Definitely.
Pat.
Yep.
I will.
Love you.
Okay, bye. Breako!
Okay, so guys, we're still on here, and of course there was a couple of questions that just came in, and obviously there was questions regarding stadiums Pat was talking about, and I think Shane, you were commenting on the nerves settling in your first stadium show. Can you guys reflect back on what that first date was and offer up some insight on what that was like for you guys? Do you remember who it was? And
stadium? Well, when I used to play for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, I'd play at the stadium there. No, I don't.
That's not true. That's a made-up story.
That's absolutely not true.
My first experience with it, I was in Japan, and we were opening Bees, the band I was playing with. Was doing a show. It was like a co-headline show with Aerosmith for FIFA. This was I guess 2002. Yeah, 2002. And up until that point, we had been playing some theater-sized venues like, I don't know, 1,500, 2,500 probably were the biggest ones. And then we had like the big show at the stadium. Well, when you get to these stadium gigs, you don't see all the people and everything. You're like, you go down into the bowels of the stadium dressing room and everything, and then you kind of hang out there until it's showtime, really. And then you take a van because it's so far away. The stage is so far away. You get in a van, and all the windows are all grayed out and everything. So I mean, I knew it was coming. Like I knew it was like, oh, fuck, this is a stadium, man. There's like 70,000 people here. And then we got into the van and we drove, for what seemed like forever. We got to the place where they let you out, and still you get out and everything's scrimmed off and you can't really see the stadium really. And then you hike up the big stage, and it's all, these giant scaffolding stages, and you get up there, and I walked out to where there was a curtain. I could see we were on the stage, and 5 minutes till we're going to go out. And I just kind of peered. I opened up the curtain and just kind of peered out, and it was just 1,000 people. I was like, I always had like quite a lot of anxiety playing gigs anyway, especially in those days. But then this was like it was like 70,000 people.
Wow.
And I'd only done, I don't know, I'd been there, I guess, I don't know how long at that point, a month, maybe 6 weeks or something, rehearsals, and then the first couple weeks of sort of warm-up shows to this, right? And I had my sticks, and I was just like trembling, and immediately my hands started sweating. And Fitz knows about this probably. When you start sweating with your hands, you tend to like have to grip really hard, and it's horrible. And I don't think I had stick grip in those days either, or wax. But anyway, I just remember, oh shit, and I was like, pacing around, and my heart was just racing. And then it was like, okay, guys, here's the intro tape. And it was just like, it was terror, really, for me. And then I remember like, okay, here we go. I hear the count, and I had the click, and we counted the first song, and I was all I could do just to hold the drumsticks through that whole, probably a couple songs before I kind of settled down to where I could, come down to earth enough to like, okay, I guess
I actually find the whole thing so surreal. Like when you're in like a festival situation, like when you look out and you can't even do the math on how many people you're looking at, but it's so surreal that it's almost kind of like, more stressful to imagine playing, I don't know, like your parents' dinner party. Hey, Shane, play a nice song for my friends. Like that sounds horrifying. I mean,
totally.
But when you get up in front of 1 million people like that, it's kind of like, it's just so, you can't, I'm sitting there trying to do the math in my head and it's like, whatever, here we go. So sometimes it's weirder to play an intimate show where people are like, they can see, the whites of your eyes and that kind of thing, than it is to play. So a stadium, I actually don't really know what I would classify as the first time I played a stadium, because it seems like we played in so many like throw and go situations where you almost don't even have time to get nervous. It's just like the gear goes out, you go out and play, and then you're off the stage, and it's just kind of like, did that even happen? You're kind of. I'm sure you played a million stadiums, yeah.
Well, I certainly remember that one.
So we're going to wrap up.
I know that Todd and I together, we did do the AC/DC shows together in France. Those are pretty cool stadium gigs.
There wouldn't be a better way. No, there wouldn't be a better way to go out, just because, you know what, and maybe we'll hear more about that next week, because that's a good topic and everybody seems to want to know about it. But the second part of that wrap-up section was we were talking about the 80s and the glam and the stuffed pants. And I thought maybe this would be a good time to share with everybody.
I'm gonna put that picture.
Oh up. Yeah, we are.
What picture are you putting up? I imagine.
Everybody, Shane, maybe Shane can tell us a little bit about this.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let's see.
What? Oh.
I can't see, so
we don't know what it is.
Well, it's on the live feed. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's the old early Hell's Bells promo.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Here's the funny thing with that one. That particular one, that's not even Hell's Bells. I was before in some other band. It was like
it is.
The absolute first headshot that I ever had, and then when I got into Hell's Bells, I think it was Feldman was our management. They're like, we need your headshot, and all I had was this janky thing that for my first band.
So you just had that photo hanging around?
Well,
you kept them in a briefcase. They were like 8x10s. You'd hand it to the chicks, right? All right.
I have it, and it was like freshly off a perm, and
wow. Love it. 13. How old are you in this?
The next one wasn't much better, but
how old are you in this photo?
That's probably, I think, actually probably like 19.
Well, let's just take a minute to appreciate how great this photo is, and And we're gonna end it on that.
That's
note.
Our friend.
So again, our next week's will be coming up in the next few days. We'll be sure to advertise, but we are certain that we'll be back here, same time, same place, next Tuesday. So once again, thanks for everybody tuning in, and again, thanks to Pat and Mike for joining us today. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
See you next Tuesday.